Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to In the Post. He's Aaron, I'm Corey. Together we are drunk in the kitchen. And tonight, there we go. Yeah.
That's right, drunk in the kitchen. Back together at last.
We're back. And again, this is In the Post, presented by Rallied Towel Sports. Appreciate y'all coming and hanging out with us tonight as the Western Conference Finals get going. And I got to tell you, not the matchup we had anticipated, Aaron.
No, I mean, I think you have a 60-win team in the Suns, and that's the pick, right? Especially when the Mavs had to win 4 out of 5 to come back. So it's not like the Suns have been in a situation all year where they've lost 4 of 5. I just kind of thought it was a slam dunk, pardon the pun. But, I mean, Luka just went otherworldly. And, you know, we kind of saw it last year with Giannis, where it was like, oh, this guy is impossible to stop. And Luka does it in a much different way because, you know, obviously, Giannis is just such an overpowering force. Luka has a little bit of finesse in his game. You know, he almost looks slow when you're watching him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
it's like watching Kyle Pitts run the 40. There's there's no way this is sub 4.
Like, oh no, he's actually really fast. No, it was an amazing series for the Mavs to come back. I was a little disappointed though, because I had family over all weekend. And yeah, right. That's it. End of sentence. No. But you know, they left Sunday and I was like, all right, we got a 3:30 game 7. We got an 8 o'clock game 7. I'm going to just relax on the couch, watch some basketball. Terrible game 7s. You know, you live for having 2 game 7s on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And they were both terrible.
Yeah. Not ideal. We got someone joining us tonight. Pops.
Let's go.
Drunk in the hotel. Right on. Cheers. Bruce. Thanks for liking the stream, buddy. Welcome home, Corey, says Bruce. I appreciate that. I was on a bit of a sabbatical. Took my talents to Sin City for a little journey out west to Las Vegas. As you guys saw the video, we did hit on that fucking parlay that I dropped on the Facebook page.
What was the one you hit? What was the one?
So we actually hit a couple. First one was Reds money line over the Pirates.
Okay.
Celtics money line over the Bucks, and over under 6 goals on the Rangers Penguins game.
Nice.
And they all hit. And it was it was like everybody threw in like $40 and we're like, yeah, let's all go in on this parlay together. Which next move in Vegas, that is going to be the primary source of my gambling. I think I have way more
people to root with, and it's an extended period of time.
Exactly, and everyone's together.
Blackjack table, quick.
And I did. I demonstrated that very well. I did the slow grind on the roulette table, though. I was plugging my way back.
That's my way.
You just got to, and I don't do the actual table one. I do the one where the ball still spins. It's not a computer.
Right.
There's no human there fucking with it because I know that they do. I know that they know what they're doing.
Right.
I watched a guy say hit 11 black or some shit like that. 11 black. It was fucking nuts. It's absolutely crazy. But so we hit on that one, and then I was actually sidebar. I was calling Aaron, guys. I was like, dude, we want to go in on another parlay. Actually, we're thinking of just going balls deep on the Celtics in game. Was it game 7? I think it was game something like that. Anyway, we were like going balls deep.
I think it was game 6 because the Warriors hadn't.
Okay.
Because the Warriors didn't. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So we were like we're gonna go balls deep on the Celtics right now, and you're like, I don't know. They ended up winning, but it didn't matter because the payout wouldn't have been worth it. What we were gonna go in on the money line for the Celtics. So the last, just out of nowhere, under Warriors Mavs. You called that one, Aaron. We took that one, 218.5 on the under. We hit that. Yankees money line over the White Sox, hit on that one, in the over 2 hockey parlays. The over on the Flames Stars game, which was 5.5 goals. We hit the over on that one. It was fantastic.
Nice.
We
So
had
you
a
didn't end up
blast.
adding the Golden State money line on it either.
No, because that one severely tanked the severely tanked the bet. So we
Right.
stayed away from that one and just we did 2 parlays that were all baseball, hockey, and basketball all rolled into one. Jordan stopping by like in the stream. What's up, buddy? And that
part
was
of the reason
crazy.
Part of the reason I wanted you to stay away from the Celtics is you said you already had a parlay relying on the Celtics.
Yeah.
You always want to avoid parking because
Yeah.
if that one misses, your whole day
Then you're
is
fucked.
You're
fucked.
You
Well, we
don't want-
actually did have it on another one. Actually,
that's
so
good.
it was Brewers money line, Celtics money line, and then Suns money line, Game 7. So, thank you, Chris Paul, Devin Booker. Yeah, dude,
I'm
what the
really,
fuck,
really
Chris
happy
Paul?
that the Golden State Memphis under hit for you because I was confident in that one for sure, but after because that was like your last day or second
to last day. Yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm the only asshole that just told a guy in Vegas to root against good points.
Right. And dude, we're sitting there. We went to the Comedy Cellar in Las Vegas as well, which is, if you know the Comedy Cellar in New York City, yeah, it was really, really cool. And next time I'm in Vegas, another thing I learned this trip, that is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing the Comedy Cellar at least one time when I go. Dude, $35. It's at the Rio, so it's not like super ritzy ditzy or whatever. But it's at the Rio, $35. You get 4 solid comics, a good host as well. And they did about 15, 20 minutes. It was fucking hilarious. It was an absolutely awesome time. Rob jumping in. Evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Rob. Appreciate you dropping by, but I hope you're not at work. Hope you're chilling with us, hanging out, having a few brewskis with Drunk in the Kitchen tonight. But yeah, man, it was the same company that does the Comedy Cellar out in New York. And because it had the same stained glass thing that they have there that says Comedy Cellar, it just said Las Vegas at the bottom. Had some Last Comic Standing guys, some America's Got Talent guys and gals, and an overall really, really good time. Definitely recommend that if you're out there. Absolutely. So before we get into, we got about 30.
While we're on it, I just want to tell you a funny story real quick.
Yeah.
You call me and you're like, pool. So I look down at my phone and I see missed call from Corey. And I'm like, oh shit. All right. It was like a minute later. I call him back. You're like, I'm poolside. That's dope, dude. So I'm like, probably a good 30 minutes before that, we're cleaning up the house. My sister and her family's coming in for the weekend. You got to make the house look better than the person you actually are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I had gotten caught like 30 minutes earlier, just kind of like sitting down, like scrolling Twitter. Mary's like, what are you doing? We got to like clean the fuck out. I know. I'm sorry. I was just taking a break. And then I disappear for like 10, 15 minutes. And she can hear me upstairs just like, oh, no, you got to go the under. You got it.
Because I'm on the other line, guys. I'm on the other line going, I can't really hear you. DJ's in the back. You got to speak up a little bit. You're breaking up.
And I come downstairs and I'm so sorry. I know. And she's just like, what was that? And I was like, oh, Corey called me. He's in Vegas. He wanted some help on some bets. And then, of course, because it's you, she just beams. And she's like, oh, how's Corey? I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to step away and give gambling advice to the person that's going to officiate your wedding. I'm good there.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the sacrifice. Dad said, did you come home up? No. No, I didn't. If you include the flight and the hotel and the dinners and the gambling.
That's
no.
Up is not losing money gambling.
Yeah, I lost money gambling.
I lost money.
It's okay. It was fun. It was a good time. I drank enough beer to make it worth it. At least I try to justify it that way, to where it didn't hit that bad because of all the free beer I drank. So pretty good.
That's good.
Not too bad. So before we got, like I said, we got about 30 minutes here before we get into Mavs Warriors tonight for the finals. Before we get into that, I think we got to talk a little bit about this Eastern Conference Finals game that happened last night.
Yeah.
I think 2 words can be said about it. Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
I mean, Jesus, 41 points. I think 27 of those points came in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, he's kind of reminding everyone that Jimmy Butler's still
Really
a
good at
major player,
basketball.
really, really good player. Now, he's not the kind of guy that you're going to think to go off for 40, but play really consistent. He's obviously a really great two-way player, really
Yeah.
brings the energy, but is a legitimately good basketball player. And I think he kind of falls out of that top 10, top 15 conversation pretty easily just because of I think the Heat are very much like a sum of all parts team. Jimmy Butler, obviously the best player on that team, and probably should have been an all-star this year if it wasn't for injury, and he just didn't have enough games to really, qualify for that. So you had Bam as their only, as a 1 seed. Typically you'll have two guys or something like that. We all know Eric Spoelstra has been a great coach throughout his whole career. But that Heat culture that everyone talks about, I mean, I think was on full display. The Celtics came out hot, or at least
I think they were up 8 at halftime or something.
Yeah, and then that third quarter is, here's the thing: it's game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. You expect the home team to win game 1. I'm not worried. I'm still taking the Celtics in this series. I'm not worried about the Celtics, and if I was in Vegas like you were for that, and I know you weren't, but if I was to gamble on that game, I would have taken the Heat 10 times out of 10 because you had the Celtics coming off of a ridiculous stretch, amazingly winning 6 and 7. You put all of your energy into that, and then you're playing, 2 days later or a day later, you got one off
number
day
1 seed. I think
before you're not only playing again. What's that?
Heat are the number 1 in the East. They were. Yeah.
So. And the Celtics are too. And, you're not only playing with 1 day's rest after going through a gauntlet game 7 series. Now you have to get up for a whole new team. I think the Heat obviously had more time to prepare. When you have that little bit of rest, whether it was going to be the Bucks or the Celtics, you can kind of prepare for either. They have a little bit more rest. Horford, who is huge in, the series prior, wasn't playing. Smart wasn't playing. I'm not surprised that the Celtics lost. The thing I am surprised about is how the Heat really, really dominated that second half.
Yeah, they just came out possessed, and I think that's the one thing that, again, you notice about Jimmy Butler is he only gives a shit about one thing only, and that's winning. That's all he really cares about. He doesn't care if he's a good teammate. He doesn't care if he's the face of the franchise. He doesn't care if he's a face of the league, really. Jimmy Butler just wants to win. And I think that's why he's a shitty teammate, and I think that's why he's had those rifts that he's had throughout his career, whether it be Chicago, whether it be Minnesota. Even some time here at the Heat, there's been some kind of like, oh shit, here we go again with Jimmy Butler being Jimmy Butler, right? But the fact that he's on a team that is consistently competing and has now made it to the conference finals 2 out of the last 4 years, if not even 3 out of the last 4 years, I can't remember, but just the fact that they're there again, I think he's in a place where he feels very comfortable, and that's the kind of people that Pat Riley wants, and I think. Tommy, a Mafia Sports Reporter, put it best that he will always be a playoff team as long as they have Pat Riley as their GM. Wish the Pistons could have that kind of GM in place. I think a lot of Pistons fans would agree with you there, Tommy. But I think the thing that's not mentioned there that I would also add to that, again, is Eric Spoelstra. You already mentioned it. I mean, one of the best coaches in the league. I think he has to get a nod to being up there in top 3. I don't know, top 5 at least.
We talked about it last Thursday when we kind of did the conglomerate pod of, just kind of everything on Thursday because we were all pretty busy and obviously you were out. I mean, Eric Spoelstra is the only coach who has outlasted LeBron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I caught that. I did catch that part, yeah.
And there really is something to be said about that because it's very easy in today's NBA when there is any type of issue, you're not going to move away from a star player. The easiest move to make is to get rid of the coach who's making $3 to $5 million. Right. Not to mention the power dynamic. When you're playing high school basketball, college basketball, the pro sports is the only time where the boss makes less money than the employee. Obviously, I know it's still a different dynamic, but when some guy's making 5 and you're making 25 and he's like, we're going to do laps. You're like, yeah, fuck off, coach.
Yeah. Good one, guy.
So I do have a lot of respect for Spoelstra. and what he's
Yeah.
been able to continuously do. And the Heat have really been extremely untalked about. Probably the most quiet 1 seed I think we've ever had.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they win this series, but I'm still taking the Celtics. And I know I had thrown it out in the group chat because I wanted it on record before games were played. I got Maverick Celtics.
Yeah. Aaron's got Maverick Celtics. Todd and I have Warriors Celtics. So all of us are riding the Celtics here out of the Eastern Conference tonight. Tommy with another comment in here saying we are gonna have to connect soon, fellas. Go Bills! If you don't already follow the Mafia Sports Report, check them out on Twitter. Follow, like, subscribe on the page on YouTube as well. Tommy is actually local here in Detroit and has probably the sickest fucking man cave I've ever seen in my entire life. It is just completely decked out, neon, Bills gear everywhere, the whole deal. Has a sick like Ric Flair intro for his shows. So Tommy does it up right. If you want to check out exactly about 40 times leading into the show, and he's like, the people love it, and so that's what keeps them coming. But yes, we are going to have to connect, Tommy. Sorry we haven't been able to lately. Been trying to connect on the draft and stuff. We've all been running around like crazy, but we are going to get Mafia Sports Report on here online to gain, and we are going to join him as well on his program. So that's going to be a lot of fun later this football season. Looking forward to tonight. Before we get into the game for tonight, we didn't really get, at least I didn't really get a chance to riff with you. I don't think you guys got a chance to talk about it at all. We touched on it briefly. The Suns. I think this is like the second year in a row that we've just witnessed a complete collapse out of this team. And it begs the question, is Chris Paul ever going to win a ring?
I mean, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say no, because it really looked like, that was basically like the funeral, was it not? I mean, he played stellar basketball all season.
Yep.
He played stellar basketball last season. It's kind
of most amazing. Of that series a little bit. There were a couple of games in those series.
It's kind of amazing he was still doing his thing. The Booker piece of it was kind of confusing too. They had trouble getting the ball to Ayton, who kind of needs people around him to get him into that spot anyway. But again, I think when you have a team that's, you lose a little over 20 games, you're not losing 4 out of 5. You don't get to 60 wins by doing that. So to me, I was like, all right, you're up 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
You're ready. You're ready to do this thing. Again, I just think Luka Doncic is just, and the crazy thing too is at the trade deadline, the Dinwiddie trade, everyone was like, all right, cool. You're moving off of Porzingis. This isn't your year. That's fine. Way to get out of it.
Yeah.
That was probably the most important trade at the deadline.
He was very important in Game 7.
And obviously
important.
Brunson doing his thing, and he's going to get paid. Man, I'm really, I didn't realize, like, the Mavericks actually do play pretty good basketball. And for a common fan, I didn't watch a ton of Mavericks games this year.
Sure.
Obviously, they were a good amount on prime time, and I love watching Luka when I can. When your star player is a guy you kind of have to bury defensively, you don't think of the team as a good defensive team. They are. Luka, you're just going to have to hide on the worst defender, which you can do because he does have size to go against a 4 or a 3 or a 2 or a 1. So I think, they'll do a good job of doing that against the Warriors in this series here. But yeah, for the Suns, that was just an absolute epic collapse.
Fucking embarrassing. I mean, all I thought about was the Suns in 6 guy. That's the only thing I was thinking about. Or Suns in 4. Suns at 4. That guy. That's who I was thinking about the whole time when Chris Paul went into the locker room at halftime with 1 fucking point. 1 point.
27 points in a half for an NBA basketball team in a closeout Game 7. Luka Doncic had 27 points at the half.
They asked him after the game, they said, at halftime, did you know that you had as many points as the Suns? And he kind of laughed. He's like, well, of course.
Yeah. After every bucket that dude hits, he's just laughing.
Just cheesing.
It's like it's kind of disrespectful.
Oh, 100% disrespectful.
But in like a good way.
Yeah, I fucking love it. It's absolutely what you need. I think just kind of. I think they have that chip on their shoulder, that underdog mentality. They're going to need to bring some of that into the game tonight, as they are heading into what is it now? Like fucking Crypto Dick Arena or some shit like that. Bitcoin bitch
Gold
Arena.
State?
Yeah, it's something like that.
I
It's
don't
not
know what
Oracle anymore.
San Francisco. Well, yeah, they moved to San Francisco.
I can't remember what it is. Chad, if you know what it is, let it help us out.
It's Chase Center.
The Chase Center. Okay.
Yeah, the crypto one is Old Staples for the
Okay,
Lakers.
that's what it was. Okay.
Crypto Dick Arena.
Yeah, crypto dick. Exactly. Perfect. Okay, cool. So tonight, Mavs, Warriors. Let's see. Do you know what the spread is? I'm going to look it up. If you don't know, I don't want you to guess it.
I don't know it.
All right. I got it pulled up. What do you think the spread is tonight going into this game?
It's Golden State, right?
It's at Golden State. Yeah.
Minus like 5.5.
Bingo. Nailed it.
Really?
Nailed it. Absolutely on the fucking button. Beautifully
Wow.
done. You fucking degenerate. That was absolutely spot on. Spot on. I mean, here's the thing. I was very, very disappointed in the Warriors' performance in that Memphis series. I mean, that was pathetic, man. When I think they gave up 77 points in game 6 in the first half. And obviously, I took the Warriors money line in that one. I was texting Aaron right when I get there, lay down a parlay. It was
over. That was the only one that missed.
Over on the Rangers Pens, Bucks plus 5.5.
I was locked in on that one. I was confident on that.
Perfect.
And they came back and actually
they actually won that game. Yeah. And then the only other thing the thing I was actually most confident about, the thing I felt the best about was that the Warriors were going to close that out and beat Memphis.
Yeah.
They go up and get their ass handed to them in the first half. 77 points. 77 points. I think they ended up losing by like 40.
Yeah, I think there was a certain point in that game, though, where they were like, we don't have it. We're still up 3-1. Let's pack this one in and come back for game 6. And to their credit, they did. You know, at a certain point, it's kind of cut your losses. Hey, let's go home. And,
right.
You know, let's go ahead and take care of business that way. And, you know, the Ja thing, I don't think was important as it was. You know, they were like 18-1 at one point this year without Ja. And, you know, Klay Thompson just isn't the same anymore. He still had, you know, some games. Actually, they kind of blew that performance out of him in the blowout. He started out pretty well. You know, the Warriors are kind of in this like weird in between where they still have they have a lot of good young guys on their team, and Kuminga, Poole, Looney, Wiseman, if he can pull it together. But then obviously they have the championship guys of Curry, Draymond, and Klay. And Draymond is still amazing. He does everything but score. And he is really the captain of that offense that allows Steph to be so dangerous off the ball, where if he was kind of made to be a traditional point guard, it'd be a lot easier to defend his 3-pointer because you just pick him up 3/4 down the floor. Right. But because you have such a willing and able passer in Draymond at the top of the key to set up the offense, and you know, he always hits guys on the cuts. He always hits people off the screen. He's a really, really good passer for his size. And just in general, he really does get those guys off the ball. Jordan Poole fell off the world. You know, he can easily right that ship around in this next series. That's the thing, is the slate's clean on that. I have no idea who the hell is going to guard Luka. Wiggins isn't going to be able to do it. Maybe have Kuminga play 15 minutes and just chase this guy and spell us for a little while.
I think it has to be Draymond. I honestly feel like it has to be.
That would be tough, though.
I don't know who else that you're going to do, because I mean, here's the conundrum, is the problem, and you notice this against Memphis. The Warriors are running. When they went on the 73 win season, it was like, oh, they're just playing small the whole time and shooting the lights out. They're doing that now they're not as effective from behind the arc as they were when they
Right.
won 73 games. And that makes the small ball look worse. It makes it much more exploitable, especially when you're going up against the guys at Memphis when you got like Steven Adams. Where are you defending him? Or if it's small ball, or excuse me, the three ball is not working for you, where are you working that inside? You're not doing it with Draymond. You're not getting paint points. So they're living and dying by that. And lately they've been dying by it. Obviously they're getting by here, getting by into the finals here, but you bring up a good point. It's going to be interesting to see who they line up against on that. You notice the Warriors did something a little bit earlier, at end of the season, beginning of the playoffs. Steph Curry coming off the bench. Do you see them going back to anything like that?
Well, that was just him coming back from injury.
Sure.
And the way Poole was playing, and I just think he was kind of on a minutes limit. So why waste the first 7 minutes of the game on his 25-minute counter, if you will? Let's have him play the more important possessions at the end of the game.
Yeah,
I think that was just good coaching. No, I don't see any chance of that happening, nor any reason.
Kerr back.
I think so. It was COVID, right? So I got to imagine.
It's COVID related.
Do you think the Kings are second guessing their hiring after that game 5?
Who'd they hire? I don't even remember.
Well, Mike Brown.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah, Mike Brown's going to be the coach. He's finishing out the year as the Warriors' defensive coach. Whatever.
I think there's some point to that because there were no adjustments to that team throughout the game. There were no adjustments. It was one game plan. And if Klay, I think it's more than Steph Curry, it's Klay Thompson. If Klay doesn't get going, the offense is done. He is their number one scorer, in my opinion. He is the catalyst to their offense because he does a lot more than just post and shoot, in my opinion. He can drive, step back, and get the mid-range as well. Obviously, he's mega deadly, probably the silkiest stroke from behind the arc in the league. But you got to get Klay Thompson going if you're the Warriors.
Yeah, the thing about Klay that was so dangerous during that, those finals runs they were making was obviously he's the second part of the Splash Brothers. He's a lights out shooter. You can't give him an inch of space and he's going to make it. But he was probably the best defensive two guard in the league as well. If not maybe top 3, but he really was an elite defender as well. And since the injury, which is understandable, he just isn't that same guy. So yeah, he can hit open shots. He can take these weird, herky jerky in the sky, somehow still gets it in type shots. But he just doesn't have that same fire in him. And Wiggins, who is always supposed to be that guy, has never really been that great of a defender. Certainly overrated since he came into the league just because he had that freak athleticism.
You think you're tainted a little bit on Wiggins at all? You think you're jaded at all on it?
Why?
Well, didn't you guys draft him?
Yeah, we drafted him and he never played a game.
That's what I mean. Like are you feel like a lover scorn?
No, we got
because he was supposed
to a championship.
Okay. All right. Well, I just didn't know if there's still.
I love Wiggins because we got that out of it. Thanks, Anthony Bennett, too. Somehow.
Josh said this is the first time since 2010 I like the NBA. You know what? I think the NBA is one of the fastest growing leagues in the world. I would say basketball in general as a sport, I think it is growing extremely fast.
It's the highest gambled on sport.
Really?
Yeah, and
more than football.
There's more games.
Okay, so higher volume. What about dollars?
Exactly.
What about dollars?
Dollars.
Oh, it's dollars. Okay.
Now, the average sports fan
per game,
the person that's just going to throw a bet down that isn't really like a consistent gambler is most likely going to do that with an NFL game. But in terms of dollar or purse, if you will, the NBA is soaking that in just because of the amount of games and they're basically on every night when they're playing.
That's fucking wild, man. That's absolutely, because I feel like NFL games are hard to predict. They're very difficult. That's why the spreads in NFL games rarely eclipse double digits.
Right.
NBA games are tough, man. Because in the middle of the season, I've watched the Magic rout the Warriors one night. Like, just the Magic literally just got the lottery pick last night. If that tells you anything about who the fucking Magic are, it's just absolutely mind blowing. Sometimes some of the upsets that happen in the middle of the season. You've got workload that you don't know is being managed in the middle of the game and things. All of this stuff that goes into it. Are you a pretty consistent better on NBA?
I actually have not really gambled on sports in a little while, just
Yeah,
because. So they just came out today. We should have it
she's
January 1.
gotcha. Yeah,
No, I'm
I'm just
that. January 1, 23. I was sick of using the offshore ones
right,
because
right, yeah,
you're essentially throwing the money away because you need a certain amount to cash. And once that money just kind of sits in your account, you feel like you have to make these bets. It's not like I can just bet, withdraw.
right,
And I was kind of just getting sick of that part of it.
right, yeah. That
So
sucks.
I basically last year was like, all right, especially once I found out we were going to get it, I was like, all right, let's just wait. Now I still love the gambling angle to sports, and I think it brings a lot of people into sports that they don't necessarily watch. Like, I know you're more of a hockey fan than I am, but you probably watched more hockey this past weekend than maybe would be a little bit typical. Or
Oh, absolutely. Well, one, obviously
right,
because I gambled on it, but
that's what
two,
I'm saying, right?
yeah. I think though that, in my opinion, the NHL playoffs are the best playoffs next to football playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason behind that is you have once you make the playoffs in the NHL, anybody can
Chaos.
win.
It's chaos. I love it.
Anybody can win. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, look at the Rangers. Look what the Rangers did. If you didn't follow this series, Penguins are up 3-1 on the Rangers. Rangers go win 3 straight to close the series out at home in overtime. Absolute fucking pandemonium. Madison Square Garden's going crazy. Rangers fans are going crazy. You've got the storyline of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who haven't exited the first round since 2004, lost again. It's just been an absolute blast watching these playoffs. Tons of game sevens as well, which you're also getting in the NBA playoffs, which is a lot of fun too. So good entry time into these sports. If you've always kind of wanted to check them out, now is a really good time. But I totally agree with your point. You bet on the game, it draws you in to watch it a little bit more, gives you a little bit more to root for and a little bit more reason to watch.
Yeah.
So another comment coming in here. Luka, best player in the NBA.
It's Giannis.
All right. Okay. Now we're getting into the echo chamber portion. I wanted to play devil's advocate or something, but I can't. I mean, if I have to pick one player to start my team right now, it's Giannis.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. Luka is right there. He's a top 5 player. I would like to see him not show himself out of shape to start a season. He's certainly at this point, it's totally fine. But I mean, at the beginning of the season, there's a reason the Mavericks weren't really talked about going into the playoffs. They were white hot going into the playoffs, which is what you want to be. But it took them a little bit to get there. Obviously, after trading Porzingis and moving in some of these guys and kind of changing the way they play. Luka's also a super high volume guy, kind of similar to how Harden was with the Rockets,
right?
Where he needs the ball 75% of the time that he's out there, and he's going to get other people involved. And
to be fair, you did see that out of Giannis in this last series, against the Celtics.
Yeah.
Giannis had to drive it a lot, had to shoot the ball a lot to get that production. Still got it, but the main thing for me is the multi-tool player. I feel like you get one side of the ball with Luka, where you get a little bit more out of Giannis.
Exactly. Yeah, Giannis is still an amazing defender. He can guard every position. Luka can't.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, the way Luka's playing right now is he's probably him, and I would say maybe. Well, you might have to give it to Butler, but I was going to say Tatum. Those 3 guys I think right now are just playing at this absolute championship
top level.
And then you have the Warriors, who have a lot of guys who can do it any night,
at any moment,
and have been there before. So it's a really, really good Final Four for the NBA. I think you can make the case for any 4 team, and I would respect it. And it is exciting. And selfishly, when it was Cavs Warriors for every year, I know for the outside of those 2 markets, that's not fun for the league. You know what I mean? The absolute unpredictability of it. I would even say last year was really cool to have Bucks Suns, 2 teams that hadn't been there in forever. And Josh is insane. So
yeah, dude. I'm just gonna pull up a video for you. Go ahead, keep going.
But no, I really love when it is unpredictable, and you don't want to tune into a series and kind of already have it predetermined. This Warriors team is not the same as the 15 to 20 teams, so it's going to be really, really interesting. And I just like the Mavericks partially because of Luka. But the Warriors to me just seemed really, really beatable in that Memphis series.
Yeah.
And I just think the Mavericks are just really hot right now. And it's kind of like going back to hockey. It's like the hot goalie. And they just kind of have this, I don't know if you want to say dog in them, or they're just playing at this different level, and they kind of just have, I don't know. It's not necessarily like a fire in them, but they do. I feel like they kind of playing like they have a little bit of a disrespectful chip on their shoulder.
We're gonna keep talking over this while we just watch what we're about to see right here. Just Josh with the comment coming in saying Luka is a better defender than LeBron ever has been, and I feel like we're just forgetting the fact that LeBron James is probably one of the best chase down blockers in the history of basketball ever. I mean, his ability to literally take over a game, not only from the offensive side of the ball, but from the defensive side. Look at this, coming clear across the paint and just absolutely denying it. Get out of here. You're done.
Yeah, I mean, let me know when Luka's on a first team or second.
That was a goaltend,
defense. I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry, but yeah, until he gets one of those, we can talk about it.
It's just,
but I'm not gonna troll argue over just silliness.
Oh my God. Just, was my screen coming up here? There we go.
I couldn't see it, but
I wasn't even sharing on the stream. I'm just going to post the link in the chat just for everybody to be able to, at your leisure, go ahead and check this video out on YouTube. I just posted in the chat for you. It's LeBron James block highlights. If you want to have the conversation about defensive ability, and we're comparing Luka.
We're also talking about a guy who was drafted in 2003 when was Luka even a fucking sperm cell at that point? Like, let's talk about longevity for a little bit.
Right. I think, yeah, I think there's got to be something to be said about not appreciating LeBron right now. There's like, and this is transcendent of basketball, in my opinion. That, like, we got to stop it with this fucking GOAT shit. Like, continuously asking who's the greatest of all time, who's the greatest. Well, is he better than this guy? Is he better than this guy? Just fucking relax and just enjoy the sport, man. And I was listening to Joe Burrow did a Full Send podcast. I was listening to that, and I think he just said it, but he's like, I don't try and be anything that I'm anybody else. I don't try and be Tom Brady. I want to be Joe Burrow. I want to be me. And I think that mentality is missed. It's gone. And I think that the social media aspect of sports and everything, I don't know. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's times when you kind of need to pause and just respect the fact of what you're seeing. If you want to tell me that Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James, I probably agree with you. I think LeBron is the best player I've ever seen play, like, for a full career point of it. Michael Jordan was doing it before I was born. I was fortunate enough to watch it on local television and get wrapped up in it, but I was kind of too young to understand, what he was. I was like, hey, that guy's in Space Jam. He's really good at this. Like, and I'm talking about Michael Jordan for that one. But yeah, man, just take a step back and, respect the greatness. And you can say he's not the best to ever do it. That's fine. You kind of, because sports is all about winning it all, you kind of have the tendency to want to rank players like that. I think we all kind of fall victim of the moment. And I think there's constantly guys that go up the ladder, down the ladder. Like, look at Steph Curry right now. I mean, I think we'd all agree he just isn't the same player he was a couple years ago, even though he
Right.
can still, if he drops 50 night, I'll be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Stuff.
Yeah, cool. Couple from half
Another
court.
day.
Like, nothing surprising there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I love LeBron. He won me a title. So I'll take that every day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that we get into that mode of constantly comparing old, like in times when the game is completely different styles of play, completely different expectations out of whatever this, the paradigm that the league is currently in, where if you compare like a Tom Brady and a Joe Montana, and you compare a Charles Barkley and LeBron, come on. What are you doing, John? Just take a nap. I think you've had enough.
That's terrible.
That's terrible. That comment is just terrible. Just take a nap, maybe have a water, and just chill out for a little bit. Yeah. Anyway.
After a couple of these comments, though, I can understand why Josh is actually more of a Luka fan. Now it's making sense.
You got it.
I got it.
You got it. Okay. Big JJ Redick guy.
Yeah. Larry Bird's the best to ever do it, and lace him up.
Jimmer Fredette, greatest of all time. Wes Welker, best wide receiver ever.
I'm going to show you two pictures of an NBA player. You tell me what you think. You're like, this guy's classy. This guy's a thug.
Thug. Yep. That's what I'm picking up those vibes. All right. What else do we got in the world of basketball over the last couple of lottery?
We just had the lottery, of course. And hey, Magic, get it? This is kind of one of those years where I think you can make an argument for a couple different guys on for number one. I think Chet would make some sense for the Magic. I don't like guys who are skinnier than a flagpole personally. And it literally,
you like them nice and thick, Aaron? You like thick boys?
Yeah, I like them thick.
That's why we're friends.
I mean, you don't even need to be like, a big boy, but
like
he
LeBron.
looks like all bone.
Yeah.
And that kind of scares me.
It's not a solid frame. You know what I mean? Not even like Dirk. Like Dirk wasn't even that wiry.
Like Durant.
Yeah, Durant.
Yeah. So let's pull up. We got the draft.
And I think this is actually the least valuable lottery pick of all time. I mean, well, maybe not of all time, but like,
no, there's really good players. This is just one of those years I actually would.
It's just so deep. It's so deep.
I would be okay with 2 or 3 because I would rather let somebody make that pick for me.
Okay, so I get what you're saying there. Yeah, as a GM, you're like, my job is safer now because I don't have the number 1 overall pick.
So Magic, Thunder, Rockets, Kings, Pistons, and that's going to be your top 5, and Pacers there at 6. We can go through the whole, but let's face it, when we're talking about the NBA draft, top 5, top 6 is really where you can get those all NBA, all-star type guys. There isn't anybody that I would say sticks out to me as like a sure thing by any means. I'm personally, I think Banchero might have the opportunity.
I was just going to say that.
The best player in this draft when all is said and done. I think there's, like you said, it's a deep draft. And for me, being a Cavs fan sitting there at 14, I'm excited about the prospect of getting a role player, maybe fringe starter in a couple of years kind of guy. Cause when I look at my roster, I don't need a guy to come in and, take the scoring load over. I have specific needs of a 3-and-D type guy, maybe potentially a backup point guard, something like that. So when you're in that type of position, I think this is a really, really good draft to be situated like that. I think last year's draft was a little better at the top between, Cade, Green, obviously Mobley and Scotty Barnes, who ended up, being your rookie of the year. It'll be interesting. For the Magic, they have Wagner, Suggs. People still forget that Markelle Fultz is still there. Like he's still kind of got some stuff. He's still young enough. They still have a lot of guys who are are young enough on that roster. And next year, they're going to have the most cap space in the league. So it'll be interesting to see what direction they go.
Is that a destination, though? Is that an organization where like, you know what, I'm going to go to the Magic? You know, I'm going to go to Orlando.
A guy who's just like a big Disney fan, and he's just like
just landlocked Florida. It's not even a beach town.
They got good golf, though.
You're just fucking hot.
Yeah, but maybe you want to go to like Harry Potter World or something.
Yeah, just get a fucking butterbeer and ride that. Play some fucking Quidditch. That just sounds, doesn't that like just, I don't even know what the fuck a butterbeer really is, but it just sounds like something you don't want to drink at 95 degrees and 83% humidity.
I'd rather have,
just throwing that out there. Rather have a beer.
I'm actually reading Harry Potter.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You were always the anti-Potter
I loved it.
guy.
I just hated reading. And when I was a kid, I hated reading. I read the first two, and then by the time I was ready to read the third one, like I had caught up to the movies, and I was like, "Oh well, read."
I mean,
right. And now I actually enjoy it. So I was just like,
"So are you?" So as you've been reading, them, are you a guy that's like, the book's so much better than the movie?
There's a lot of context that is missed in the movies, and a lot of things that linearly don't make sense now that I'm going back and looking at it. And part of that is the movies were coming out basically concurrently with the books. Obviously the books had to come out first, but then a year after the book was out, the movie was. So you didn't really know the direction that the next book was going to have while you're making the movie. So there's kind of things that would have been better to foreshadow or forecast or anything like that.
So if they had waited the same like time period that they waited for like Lord of the Rings, you think these movies could have been better?
Exactly. Or like Goblet of Fire, for instance, is just such a long book. You're never going to be able to like that. Should have been a 2-part movie. There's so much stuff they had to cut. That going
deep down the Harry Potter hole right now.
We'll get out of it soon. But there's a lot of stuff.
It's our fucking show. It's not your podcast.
Yeah,
it's ours.
So yeah, it was good. I'm enjoying it. I just started. I'm on like chapter 8 of Deathly Hallows. I started reading it. That was like my New Year's resolution, was to just read more, especially before bed, like not be on my phone. Like
there you go.
Not have the light in my eyes.
Be an adult.
Yeah, like be an adult. And like I was like, my New Year's resolution.
Look at Josh, dude. Look at Josh. Who the fuck do you think you are, dude? You know what's funny is we talk. Look at this. You see that, Josh? I also have 2 offspring, just to let you know.
I don't have one on my hand, but I'm shopping for one now.
He's on the way. Listen to this. I can talk about Harry Potter on my sports podcast and still get pussy. That should tell you how good my fucking game is. That's how good my game is, boy.
And here's the thing. Bitches love Harry Potter.
Come on. 10 points to Gryffindor.
All right. Anyways, we can turn this back into sports. So
let's.
I'm just kidding.
Oh shit, man! No, so I'm curious. Where are the Hornets in the lottery in the draft order?
I believe we're 13. Let me double check here.
So they're a lot further down than I had imagined they would be. I guess were they not?
Yeah, they're at 13. Well, they were in the play-in.
Yeah, I get. They just seem like a team that's on the cusp without the real star. Josh, I know you're just talking about this.
Let me figure. That's still true. They're at 13 and 15.
Oh wow! Okay.
So could you potentially move up?
Is there a team that has the capital or that is kind of in a position to move back? I don't know. Like if I'm like, so for instance, out of the top 5, there's only one of those teams, in my opinion, that really has a star in my eyes.
Top 5?
Yeah, out of the top 5, right? We're talking 5-6 draft pick, top 5-6 draft picks.
You're going to say Cade.
I'm going to say Cade. Yeah, I would say the Pacers need a star, right? I think the Magic absolutely need one of those guys as well. So the only team that really has that is the Pistons, and I think the Pistons are in a point right now where they're like, let's grab one more and then we're good, and then we can start drawing in like a vet that's looked like a ring chasing, and he can be our extra piece, like a guy at the tail end of his career or something like that, or maybe they make a trade for another a big name guy like a Donovan Mitchell or something like that. So I don't see the Pistons trading back. Is there any team in maybe
Well, it's
6,
interesting
7,
you say
8?
Donovan Mitchell because so I'm looking at the Ringer mock draft at 5. They have Jaden Ivey going to guard, and the shades of are Donovan Mitchell, Jumbo, Darius Garland, Victor Oladipo.
Okay, interesting.
And that would be interesting because you have Cade, who is a supersized guard, right? He's like 6'7", I think, and he's got long arms, but he kind of plays that combo guard style. I think they could use a decent point guard on that team. But for the Pistons right now, it's all about garnering assets. You can take one of these guys and you don't necessarily have to commit to them. You just have to make sure that their asset is appreciating and not depreciating. Maybe you move that for a piece that fits a little bit better along the road. Guys on rookie deals are always going to be valuable.
Interesting.
I think the Pistons are in a good spot at.
So you're
5.
saying kind of what the Cavs did in essence with Wiggins. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that kind of
a little different when you got LeBron,
because if you don't get LeBron back, you're keeping Wiggins, and you're not making that Love trade because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's certainly times where that could make sense, but you usually don't move off of guys like that so early. You want to see them develop. I know we already talked about Banchero. I think that would be a really good fit in Houston. They already have enough guards. They could use a power forward who can really get a bucket. I think Banchero and Jabari Smith are the most intriguing to me, or the most, I would say, sure things in that top 5. I think Chet, without a doubt, has the highest ceiling. But I'm just a little bit worried about him. And there's no other reason than just looking at him where I'm just like, you can be snapped in half. He doesn't play, although he's a big guy, he's very comfortable stepping away from the shoot. He's an elite shot blocker, an absolute elite shot blocker. And he kind of just, he seems comfortable out there, even though when you look at him, he just looks awkward. I think he plays a good style of basketball for the modern NBA. I'd be a little bit worried about his fit with Wagner. But right now, when you're drafting, you don't worry about fit. You worry about best player available. So I like Chet to go number 1, but I think Jabari and Banchero are my sure things.
So yeah, that's one of the comments here is, what do you think about Chet? His game, obviously, we've talked about him a little bit. We're a little concerned about his size coming into the league, but size and physicality, it's becoming a little less important, I would say, in the NBA, just the way that the game is kind of spread out, whereas you're not getting those big bang-em-up 5s that are clogging the paint. There's only a couple of those guys really left in the league. We talked about one, Steven Adams, right? Rudy Gobert comes to mind as somebody in that realm as well. So needing to be some kind of physical force, is that really what you need out of a guy like Chet, or where are you falling on that?
He's going to get eaten alive by the Embiids of the world, but those are becoming so few and far between. Yeah. He's more of a guy who's going to come off the ball and make that shot block and not necessarily be guarding in the post.
What are his comps? You had mentioned.
So yeah, this is why I have the Ringer up, is because I love they don't do comps, they do shades of, because the comps are so hard to really kind of pull in, but I love it because they give a little bit of context. So the shades of are Gen Z Pau Gasol and Rudy Gobert with perimeter skills.
Okay, so Josh is saying KD mixed with Rajon. I don't know if he's got the dish like Rajon has. I mean, that one of the best,
or if he's going to pull a piece.
Yeah,
also news this week.
Yeah, shave his head, large headband, resemble an alien of some kind. At Rajon Rondo, I don't know if he's got that distribution. I don't know. Is it a run the offense through Chet kind of thing, similar to like what we see with like a Draymond, or like we talked about in the past on the show, Joakim Noah, where you run the offense out of that high post, work it into him, and he flushes it out through other guys. Is that what you could see
No,
coming
I
out
don't
of
see
Chet?
that with him. I mean, I
Yeah.
certainly think he's a willing passer,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that's a top part of his game.
What I'm reading from those shades, Powell and Rudy with perimeter, is very solid defender.
Yes.
Great post play and can hit the three.
Yeah, he can step out and shoot it for sure. I think he's a better defender when he's guarding. I think he can guard 3s and 4s okay, because he does have that wingspan. Honestly, the Kirilenko comp isn't terrible. That Josh made in the chat. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be frank. I didn't watch a ton of college basketball this year. I did get to see a little bit of Chet. I think there's a reason a lot of people have him going number one, and I just think he's got the highest ceiling. And when you're taking number one overall, you want to take the person that has the highest potential, not necessarily the immediate return on investment.
Yeah, and I think you kind of get the opposite of that when you look at a guy like Ivy out of Purdue, is kind of that. I think you've kind of seen close to his max at this point, and I think that's why he's not up there in those premier lottery picks. I'm not sure if you're looking at where he's projected to fall. It's probably somewhere at the end of the first round, but
Ivy?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's what I said. So he's projected, or at least on the Ringer one I have pulled up, is 5 to Detroit.
Oh wow. Okay. That's an interesting. Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear that coming in. The one I looked at earlier today, he was not in the top 5. So that's very interesting. Is who's the guy at Iowa?
Keegan Murray.
Yeah, Keegan Murray. That's who they had going to Detroit.
Okay. And in this one, they have him going 6 to Indiana.
Okay. So falling right in the same spot.
Right.
Need a guy that can score. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of good wings and guards in this league, or I'm sorry, in this draft. Like we said, I think this is a deeper draft, but I don't think there's going to be, like this year, between Cade, Mobley, and Barnes. Those were guys who came in right away, and you're like, yep, these are really, really good NBA players, and they're going to be here for a long time. I don't necessarily see that with this class.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with opportunity as well. So for the Thunder, it's interesting. I mean, they still have all the draft capital in the world. I think they have like 17 picks, first-round picks over the next 5 drafts or something like that. It's something absurd. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around that range. And they're still just kind of like an island of misfit toys where, you're just kind of throwing darts at the board and you're going to see how it all fits. This is the first time they've had a pick in the top 2 here. I think they've had 5 or 6 the last 3 years, and they've made some good picks with those. But it'll be interesting to see how that all comes together. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the only player on that team that's really worth anything to me, at least from an NBA perspective. But I think the Thunder could finally kind of turn the ship with this pick here at 2.
Man, that's a team that I just feel like they just need to move it back. I just move it back. Why is it in Oklahoma City? You're going to tell me that?
God, Seattle needs a team.
Just that St. Louis can't field a football team. They can't host a football team, but Oklahoma City can host an NBA franchise. Cincinnati can't host an NBA franchise, but Oklahoma City can. Just absolutely insane to me. I just don't get it.
Here's the thing, though, man. They actually, from like fan wise, they do well.
Cool. It's just not good.
Any other competition,
right? And I can appreciate that. I think it's kind of similar to like Salt Lake City right now with the Jazz. Like they do really well. That being said, the Jazz or Salt Lake City is in the top 4 for next NFL expansion teams. So just keep that in mind.
I think for Seattle, though, I think I would sooner see New Orleans or Sacramento go.
Really? Because you've seen New Orleans move often. I could see Sacramento. Moving because it's just the market is just completely different from an ownership perspective. There's not that rich history on either of those franchises, just because of the recency bias. I think that comes along with them being.
No, not even. I mean, they broke the the Donald Sterling Clippers record for consecutive
Well,
missed playoffs.
what I mean by that is that, Sacramento hasn't been there for 40 years. The Kings
Right.
haven't been there for 40 years. The Pelicans haven't been there for 40 years, right? They were the
And obviously
Hornets.
the Thunder haven't too. I get that, right?
Right. But it rips the Band-Aid rips off a little bit easier pulling a team out of Sacramento than it is pulling a team out of, name any other NBA franchise, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I could totally see that one. I kind of think it's time too. I just think the Kings have been this bad for at least a decade now. They've just kind of been this lower tiered basketball team for a long time. Am I missing that?
Who was it again? I'm sorry.
The Kings. They've just kind of been.
They
this.
Just keep blowing draft picks.
They really do. And have there been front office GM changes as of late or in the last 5 years or so?
Yep.
Just keep cycling it through and it's just not working. Too. Absolutely amazing. So a quick update going on out in San Francisco. The Golden State Warriors are up 22-16, 2:48 to go in the first quarter. Quick scoring update. Luka Doncic leading the way for the Mavs with 8 points, going 3 of 7 from the field. And our boy, Mr. Wiggins, leading the way for the Warriors, 3 of 4 from the field with 8 points, 2 of 2 behind the arc. Steph Curry, 1 of 4 with 2 points. Not good if you are a Warriors fan. As we look at it, about to wrap up the first quarter, the Warriors taking care of business so far. A long way to go. I've kind of found watching the NBA a little bit more intently over the last couple of years. And I don't want this coming across the wrong way because I like the NBA and I appreciate the game and where it's at today. And we're kind of in this flux period of the NBA now. We're starting to enter that at least. Chris Paul is probably close to hanging them up. LeBron James is close to hanging them up.
Maybe.
Yeah, right. Just keep bouncing 1-year contracts. We're nearing the end of that era.
There's certainly a changing of the guard.
There is. And in my opinion, the league is at a point where it has no face. I don't think a guy like Giannis is as marketable as a guy like LeBron, clear just from a cultural language perspective. Yeah. James is a much easier name to pronounce. I'm obviously biased, but Jordan, very easy. Bryant, very easy. It's marketable, right? Nothing else needs to be taken from those. No undertones need to be taken from that other than from a marketing standpoint. Luka, I think maybe, but I don't see this. I don't know that it's there yet. I think we would have already seen that had he have been that person. Yeah, I think the person is probably still in high school or college at this point.
It's still. I mean, the only thing I'll say to that is between like Luka or Jokic, it's so good for the international game though, which is the largest market.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, and then obviously Giannis as well. Is really good for a worldwide marketing perspective, but you still have, I mean, tons of guys like Ja. I think it will be insanely marketable moving forward. There's still, let's see what happens with Zion, but if that guy even touches what he did last year, they're gonna put him in every commercial and try to get that game on TNT every week. So,
Josh, hold on, Josh, just stop. Just stop. If you're going to talk like that in the chat, you can go. I appreciate you jumping in and watching the show, but you're done.
There's no room for that.
You're done. Sorry, Aaron. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But I know what you mean. I mean, there's still the old marketable guys between LeBron, Steph, Durant. Those guys are still going to be there, for a little while. But yeah, there is certainly that changing of the guard that's going on right now. And I'm excited for it because I want to see these young guys. I also think he's a little bit quiet, but boy, Jason Tatum has just been playing great basketball, and I'm excited.
That's a name that go ahead.
I said it last week, but I think that is probably your best odds bet for MVP next year for a value perspective.
I mean,
I don't think
it's not going to come out
but I
until
would guess let's just call it somewhere around like somewhere between like plus 18 to plus 2,200. You know what I mean? If it is going to be.
Yeah, I think Ja Morant. I mean,
I don't. Here's the thing: until he can prove he can stay healthy, I just don't think he'll be able to be eligible for an award like MVP. I think Luka would be a great bet, but you'll probably see him at like plus 450.
What about face of the league kind of thing in terms of that?
I don't think Tatum has the personality to necessarily be a face of the league, but he's
Ja Morant.
Ja does for
yeah.
Sure.
That's where I was going with that in terms of the back to the face of the league, and kind of we're bouncing around MVP face of the league conversation. Ja Morant, I think, absolutely has that ability.
100%. Yeah, I would love to see Ja stay healthy because we all love watching him play. But even in this playoffs, and we see him, he's injured, or obviously they're out, but being injured, I'm not surprised just because of the way he plays. It's very reminiscent of Derrick Rose in Chicago, where every time he's out there, like, holy effing shit! Like this is some of the most crazy athletic things I've ever seen, and not just athletic, but very, very skilled. But just the reckless abandon that you play with your body, I just don't know that you can keep taking that beating from an NBA level throughout your whole career.
I'd be interested to see if those two have a conversation in the offseason. Just Derrick Rose is kind of turned into this like Jedi. Yeah, well, like Jedi master, to where he's in such like the twilight, obviously, of his career, and he's entered in such like I feel like a great mental space for Derrick Rose at this point. Like I think he's come to terms with what has happened in his career, and he appreciates where he's at and what he's been able to do, and it's been really cool to see for Derrick Rose, a guy who literally could have been the best player in the league for a long time.
Yeah.
Had it have not been for those injuries that he sustained at the beginning parts of his career, throughout his career, actually, not even just the beginning parts, right? It was consistent. Hometown guy playing for his team. The story was written right there. The Bulls were going to be back, right? That was the storyline. So it'd be interesting, if those two could link up in the offseason. He can just kind of tell, like, I know you want to do this, but I'm telling you, you can be even better if you treat yourself this way, if you take care of your body this way, those kind of things. And it's just, I think it's tough though for the guys that play at a level like Ja. Like, he's been doing this literally for the last decade, playing full go as hard as he can, dominating people since he was like 13 years old. Like, that's just how he plays. So learning a new way to play, is that going to make his game suffer at all? Just a very, very interesting dynamic.
I mean, if he wants to have a long career, he can't play like that.
Right.
At some point his athleticism will go. And it's crazy to say that about a guy who's so young in his NBA career.
Like 20, 22, 21. Right. No, he's like 21 years old, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, the prime example of that is Vince Carter, right? Like he's somebody who completely reshaped and re-elevated his game to be able to stay in
Ray Allen
20 years. Ray Allen too. Yeah. I think a lot of people forget how athletic Ray Allen actually was when he was with the Sonics and with the Bucks. I know we all remember him for the Celtics run and actually
Jesus Shuttlesworth.
Exactly. The guy was a pretty athletic guy, and obviously, being a skilled 3-point shooter, it won't always translate that way sometimes when you're watching. But those are guys who change their game and really want to stay in the league for a long time. And the funny thing is, 1 and 2, obviously Ja went 2, and then you have on the flip side of that at 1 Zion, and it's completely different, where the guy's like eating himself out of the league. And when you're a professional athlete, that is your currency, is your body, right? That would be the thing that you would want. Like, I'm sitting here having a Corona and enjoying a little bit of sports talk, but I just get to sit here and talk. There's not a lot of physical strain on me. But if I was
don't get paid millions to do this either,
right? Which you can actually use to reinvest in your body, which the greats do. I mean, Obviously, we've already LeBron sleeps in a cryo chamber just like Tom Brady does. Like, it's the amount of money that you're willing to invest in your longevity,
in your asset, your number one asset,
exactly.
right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, longevity perspective, Kobe, rest in peace. I mean, the guy literally dropped like 80 points in his last season in one game. So I mean, wasn't it? Didn't he drop like 80?
It was like 60. It was 81 was his career high, but it was like his last game against the Jazz. I think he scored 61.
Absolutely bananas. Absolutely bananas. Yeah. So, and the league, we just mentioned him, but we were talking about who's going to be the face of the league. They had their answer. At least they thought they did. When he was 15 years old, they thought this is going to be the next guy. This is going to be our next LeBron, and Zion Williamson. He was supposed to be that. There were obvious concerns about him coming out of Duke. Those concerns have reared their ugly head tenfold.
Yeah.
And now he's I got to think that there's still that ability. He still has it. It's a mental thing at this point. It's not a physical ability or even basketball IQ or anything like that. It's how can you heal a lower body injury when you're 50 pounds overweight? You just can't do it.
Right.
You can't do it. It's
yeah, but you can do like 360 windmill dunks and warm-ups.
Yeah, on the rehab court too. The nice spongy rehab court. I don't know, man. There's something going on there. And I actually I raised this question in the middle of the season when we started this podcast. Zion, do you think he wants to play basketball anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of similar to Greg Oden when he came out of Ohio State, and obviously he had his own injury concerns, and he was a big boy himself, but his was more so.
He's just tall. He's huge. He's lanky. He's
huge.
Yeah,
he was huge.
Huge frame.
He wasn't like fat. You know what I mean? He was just a gigantic man, and he had even said he's like I like basketball. I don't love it, but like I'm 7 feet tall and I'm an athletic freak. What else am I gonna do?
Yeah.
I
can make millions of dollars doing this.
Yeah.
I'm 0.2% of the population that gets drafted in the NBA.
Right.
You know what? I actually saw, I think there's a statistic out there that's like something like 3% of all people that are over 7 feet get drafted.
Yeah.
Of all human beings on earth that are over 7%, 3% get drafted. That's pretty good. I mean, from a perspective, that is good. Like relatively speaking, when you consider how many 6'5" dudes get drafted, right? I'm 6'5". How many of these dudes get drafted? It's like 0.003%, right? So, yeah, in terms of 3%,
height is most definitely a prerequisite for the league.
I think basketball it helps. I think I've read that somewhere in a book. And end of the first quarter out in San Francisco, the Golden State Warriors are up 28-18, lead by 10. Luka still hanging around that 8-point line. Warriors spreading the ball around a little bit, as now Steph is up to 4 points. Klay Thompson still 0 for 1 from behind the arc. Nothing on the board. Draymond with 2 as well. Porter Jr. with 2. Spreading the love around there as they take on the Mavericks, just getting underway here in the second quarter out there in game 1 of the Western Conference Finals.
And I have both teams in the finals that don't have home court. That's how I'm doing it. So I am not nervous. I wouldn't be nervous about my pick now because you expect the home team to win game 1.
Yeah.
As the the away team, the lower seed, just got to take one of the first 2. That's all you got to do.
That's all you have to do. That's really all you have to do. And from there, it's yours, right?
And you have home court.
Then you have home court. Still a tough task, definitely, because obviously the other team knows that.
And we're also talking like they're down 10 going in, second quarter just starting. That game's not over by any means.
We also just watched a Phoenix team go up 2-0 to start a series and then lose.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot can happen in these 7 games. It's going to be I think it's going to be a really fun, interesting. I think we could see 7 games again out of both these series. I honestly believe that.
I would hope so.
Yeah, it's been too fun. I'm not ready for
Yeah.
the finals just yet.
And it seems like basketball is starting to get to a point now where there is a little bit more parity across the league, which is so good for the league.
And especially in interconference as well. I think you're
Yeah.
starting to see the East get better, albeit the West is downgrading. Obviously, Steph and Clay are kind of coming down a little bit. LeBron obviously has regressed. The Clippers have never really been what we thought they were going to be, and so all the Rockets obviously have disbanded apparently,
Right.
and all of these major powerhouses that we saw, the Suns aren't a powerhouse. They looked to be on the verge of that, but never really got to that point. So you're seeing definitely a power shift coming out of the East.
Yeah, I think top to bottom, the East was the better conference this year.
I agree. Yeah.
And again, the Suns were the class of the NBA, so you could say sure that the top of the West might be overall better.
But they at home, baby. They at home now.
Right, exactly. And we keep saying it, but the Heat never got enough love this year. Giannis with the Bucks, Embiid with the Sixers. Like, I don't really know. Next year, we'll see what happens. And of course, the Celtics just keep getting better.
Dude.
It's funny that at the beginning of this year, there was conversation of, do you have to break up Brown and Tatum? Like, it just wasn't working. And that would have been idiotic. I was actually joking with my buddies in a group chat today when we were talking about the draft lottery. What do you want to do at 14? Can we package it? Maybe move for a established wing player. And at the beginning of the year, we were talking about two guys that could potentially become available, and that was Brandon Ingram and Brown with the Celtics would have been perfect fits for the Cavs. And it's amazing how long ago that feels, because neither of those guys are going to become available
going anywhere. Yeah.
When the Pelicans were sputtering, and same, with the Celtics to start the year, it was like, okay, we can throw 2 first-round picks, Sexton, and a play. You know what I mean? Like, maybe we can get a guy. No chance.
Yeah.
My only hope now would be if the Suns really want to break it up and we can get Bridges. I would love that. We need a 3-and-D guy. We need a 3-and-D.
Yeah, the Cavs aren't too far removed from obviously being a playing team this year. Beginning of the season, I think expectations were before the season started. I'd say that you had been satisfied with that, and then obviously going into the season
was the goal,
right? And then as the season started, leading up into Christmas, you're like, holy shit, like we can be like a top 4 seed in the East.
Leading into Christmas, I mean, shit, it was at the All-Star break, they were in a puncher's chance of the 1 seed.
Sure.
And then injuries, ruin their.
It's a long season, man.
Yeah, I know.
It's a long season, and it's just it's been fun. And like I said, earlier, not only just the playoffs is a good time to get into the league, but I think now we're at a point where, if you don't have a team, it's a good time to pick one now, because you have so many to choose from. You have so many, and the NBA is like that. I feel like more than most leagues, because of the jumping around that you see with players. It's okay I think the NBA is one that mutually acceptable to be a fan of players more than teams.
100%. Yeah.
I think most of the fanhood is okay with that.
Me personally, I'm just not wired that way, though.
Right. Me either.
I certainly have I like the I love Giannis, so I like the.
I love Joel Embiid. Like, I will root for Joel Embiid no matter where he's at. You know what I mean?
I love Luka. There certainly are a lot of guys that I like and I root for. And if they weren't on that team, I wouldn't be rooting for them. I'm basically rooting for the player. And but I just